Tonight on WCW Nitro, it's the fallout from last night's Super Brawl 2000 pay-per-view. And we've got a new champion and lots to cover in this show. My name's Anders, this is WCW 2000 with a twist on Total Extreme Wrestling 9. Make yourself comfortable, get yourself subscribed, like the video, and let's see what crazy twist our random generated booker has got in store for us. So, it's a swerve, bro. Turn someone in a prominent role for no other reason than to turn them and don't bother explaining why. Okay. Right, let's see who we've got in a prominent role that we can turn. Let's have a think. It's not going to be Hogan because he's just come back. Can it be Nash? I suppose a swerve bro is kind of is that a heel turn maybe? Maybe it could be Nash. No, he's kind of in with a little bit. We're already kind of starting a turn for Lex Luger, so that's there. Anyone else in a real prominent role we can turn? Maybe we just turn Sid. Is that what? Should we just do that? Should we just turn Sid? Oh, why not? Where is he? Sid. There we go. Let's handle a turn. His last turn was recent. Well, WCW. Let's do it. Let's crack on. Let's turn Sid heel. How do we figure that one out? So instead of here where he chases around and fights with Jeff Jarrett, let's have him beat. Should we have him beat up Mean Gene? Let's do that. Sid is furious and unhinged. He finds Mean Gene backstage and beats him up. He sets him up for a powerbomb, but security intervene and Sid beats them up instead. I think we could turn Sid heel with this, right? So we'll turn you into a victim, Mr. Mean Gene, and we'll not bother selling it next week. You'll just be there for no reason. Right, Sid. Attacker update. Where's Jeff Jarrett? We won't get him out of the angle here. Save that. Sid is a psycho. There we go. We'll just turn Sid into a psychopathic heel who just starts attacking people backstage for no reason whatsoever. Right, so that's our change for the night. We've already got a bit of a chaotic show with lots going on. We've got a few of the random booking tasks that are still ongoing. So we've got our love triangle going on, our random stable going on. I think we've got another one somewhere that we've just... I can't remember what it was. We've not included the Hollywood Brother this week, but we're going to have to close that one out at some point. With the fact that Hogan then went on to win the world title at Super Brawl. Spoilers, if you haven't watched the Super Brawl video, go and watch it right now. There is a big change in that one. I've just told you what it was, but don't listen. We'll have to close out the Hollywood Brother angle. That's the maestro who's just mocking Hogan and pretending to be Hogan every week whilst he wasn't on the show, and now he's here. We kind of forgot about it a little bit. We're also forgetting about a few other things because it's WCW. So Madness Inc. and Randy Savage's supposed title shot at the US title that was cancelled because he was in Japan. Not going to mention that tonight. There's something happening with the US title as well. The Horsemen are kind of just forgotten about already because that's how WCW used to treat the Horsemen in the late 90s, early 2000s. But right, we'll go through the show. We've got 21 segments, 115 minutes, so we might as well go into things. And we are in Oregon, I think, the Seven Feathers Event Center. 3,000 in attendance. How the mighty have fallen. We've got a quick recap of last night at Super Brawl, and we've got a new WCW champion. Obviously, if you haven't watched the Super Brawl video, you probably ought to before watching this Nitro, but you can just pretend that you didn't buy the pay-per-view and now you're just watching on TV. We'll fill you in with what mainly happened anyway, but go and watch that just in case. That gets a 68 rating to start the show, and the crowd are simmering. We've not lost them yet, which is good. Next up, we've got... Oh, dear. The NWO arriving, Nash telling Mean Gene that Ric Flair is out of action, so he will be assuming the role of acting commissioner tonight. Hogan is going to pay for stealing the world title, and he is invoking his rematch clause for tonight's main event. For his part in last night's event, Scott Hall, who accepted Hogan's impromptu challenge on behalf of Nash, must prove himself against Sid Vicious tonight, and Scott Steiner is rewarded for kicking Ric Flair's backside to the point where he's injured with a US title match against Chris Benoit tonight. The hints of a Sid Vicious heel turn got a poor reaction, and it probably brought down the segment a little bit too much. Nash came across well, though, and it got a 43, which ain't great. But there we go. We get better ratings than that in our local to global save. So that shows you kind of where WCW are at this point. Then our opening contest, Billy Kidman defends his Cruiserweight title against one of the Armstrongs, Steve, in fact, with a shooting star press in 4.5 minutes. It's defense number 4 of this run of the Cruiserweight reign. Kidman and Tori still got pretty good chemistry. His heel turn is kind of going okay, I think. He's part of the revolution, if you aren't following along. It gets a 37 segment rating. The crowd were nicely into it. And we're still simmering, so we still haven't lost them, which is always a good sign when we're more than 5 minutes into the show. And then we try and lose them by having a bit of an Armstrong family reunion. So Steve is joined by his brothers Scott and Brad, who has debuted a standard old school face. Did we actually remember to change him? That's the important question. Did we change him? Have we turned him face? I hope we've turned him face. Maybe we haven't actually remembered to turn him face. Let's go back to the booking screen. Did that happen? Where's Brad Armstrong? Oh, I forgot to put the face turn in the angle. Never mind, we'll do it next week. Right, we go to Mean Gene, who's with the new WCW World Champion. Hulk Hogan talks all about the Hulkamaniacs rejoicing as Hogan became the rightful World Champion once again. If Nash wants to assume power tonight, he can do. But whatever obstacles that are put in front of the Hulkster, he can't take his world title back. We get a nice boost to the crowd. The angles got them hotter, and the segment rating of 63 is good. Hogan's still getting penalised for his personal issues, and obviously the locker room morale is dragging everything down. But we'll move on. We cut somewhere else backstage and find Rick Steiner and Dustin Rhodes brawling for some reason. We never find out why, because they brawl past a number of other wrestlers who just get involved in the fight, including Sabu, and we've got an impromptu title match for the hardcore title. This was mainly because Rick Steiner gave us an angle idea, but it was a failure. So, thanks. We go straight into a 6-way hardcore title match, which actually puts in a good rating. Sabu's still slowed by his injury. I think he broke his toe or something like that at Super Brawl. But he retains his hardcore title with a victory over Norman Smiley. It's his first defense in just under 7 minutes. The 6 men who were involved in that last angle go into the match, and we get a pretty decent random hardcore match. So Norman Smiley still got his hot move and his groundswell of support, but it's not doing him very good elsewhere. Right, angry Sid Vicious tells Mean Gene that he's fed up with the NWO and will take it out on Scott Hall tonight, but we know what Sid Vicious is going to do later in the night because we're randomly turning him heel. Next up, Berlin is trying to fire up, forgot about the enmity angle. Berlin's trying to fire up the Barbarian and Hugh Morris. He wants them to get angry, and he wants them to beat on the next guy who walks through the door. You know where that's going, don't you? In walks Disco Inferno. He's wearing a Walkman, so he doesn't know what's happening. Dancing away. Barbarian just shrugs and drops him with a headbutt. Berlin holds his head in his hands, and this kind of comedy angle, kind of just a bit of a nothing mid-card angle, continues. Berlin disappointed that his team have beaten up the other member of his team. Eventually we'll get to the point where we turn Berlin face and we get Alex Wright back dancing with Disco. Anyway, we've got some actual serious... God, why is Scott Steiner so unprofessional? A serious match here as Scott Steiner defeats Chris Benoit to become the WCW US Champion. Scott Steiner's unprofessional, but this pair have great chemistry, so it kind of covers for the unhappy Scott Steiner phoning in his performance. He can get better than a 51. Benoit drags it up. I'm trying to keep Steiner happy by giving him wins like this. He gets a 63 rating and gets the crowd hot. But it could have been so much better if Scott Steiner wasn't a little whiny bitch. I'm not actually calling Scott Steiner in the real world a whiny bitch, just in this save, because I don't want Scott Steiner to find me and beat me up. Next up, we see the total package trying to improvise. He doesn't like being scripted, so he's trying to improvise. That makes sense. But he doesn't do very well at it. And Liz, they're sat backstage looking glum. Luger tells Liz that maybe he's been playing it wrong all this time. Maybe it was the total package that was the problem and not Sting. We'll see where that one goes, but it's supposed to be a face turn. And the crowd don't want a face turn from Liz, apparently. 38 rating, didn't drag the crowd down too much. Next up, DDP with Mean Gene. He wants to move on with his life. I've put live there rather than life. And put Canyon and Kim in the rear view. He wants one last match and then he's done with them. The Wall then attacks DDP and the pair fight until security breaks them up. The Wall dragged the angle down. DDP's promo got a 53. Overall, though, a 41. Still very hot crowd. We haven't lost them. And then we go into a tag team title contest. There's the Revolution, who were promised a title shot by Booker T and Rey Mysterio after they challenged them a few weeks ago, I think. They get the victory, though. And we get new tag team champions after David Flair sticks his nose into things, grabs the ankle of Rey Mysterio, trips him off the top rope behind the referee's back, and he gets dropped with a Death Valley driver by Perry Saturn. Flair does not like the fact that Mysterio and Booker have been sniffing around his now girlfriend, Miss Hancock. That's not really... That was the love triangle angle we had last week, by the way, if you're not remembering. And we get new tag team champions, Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn of the Revolution. They're tag team specialists, and they are the new champions. It gets a 53, a nice rating there. Everyone putting in a decent shift. And then after the match, the Revolution beat down. So Billy Kidman and Shane Douglas join the new tag team champions. And they celebrate by beating down the old champions and then celebrate with their gold. There are 3 title belts now in the Revolution. David Flair just stands at ringside laughing like a lunatic because that's what David Flair does. Excellent. 41 there. Next up, Scott Steiner is celebrating with his freaks as the new US champion. He's taken out both Flair and Benoit in the last 24 hours, and now he's going to show his freaks why they call him the Big Bad Booty Daddy, because ain't nothing finer than Scott Steiner. 40 rating there. I'm hoping that we can get Scott Steiner's morale up a little bit so he stops phoning in his performances, because I think he will be a key asset as the year goes on. Next up, the Outsiders come to the ring ahead of our final 2 matches. Acting Commissioner Nash toasts the new US champion Scott Steiner, and he tells Hall that he needs to do the same and get the job done no matter what. Tonight's a big night for the NWO. They will be leaving with all the gold. Hall tells Nash not to worry. He'll get the job done and will be on hand to make sure that Hogan gets what he deserves in the main event. The hint at a Sid Vicious heel turn got a poor reaction. We know it was going to, but I can't do anything about it. Scott Hall's hot new catchphrase is still giving us a nice little boost to the rating. And then Hall defeats Sid Vicious with the Outsider's edge after Jeff Jarrett wallops him in the back with a guitar without the referee seeing. Sid's hints of a heel turn still dragging things down. And Scott Hall's out in extremely poor form. Do we turn him heel now? We'll turn him heel now. We'll turn him heel. It didn't go down particularly well, but then the next segment, when he's a heel, will hopefully not be as poor. But it gets a 67 rating for the match, which is really good, actually, by the standards we usually see in WCW 2000. After the match, we get an update from Roddy Piper, who gives us an update on Ric Flair's condition. He claims that the commissioner will be back in charge next week, whether he can make it to the arena or not. Why on earth is Roddy Piper's angle and promo only getting a 33? That just does not make sense. Low morale. Not being a very good face. Low locker room morale. What can you do? Everything gets pinged by low locker room morale. It's just, we're fighting a losing battle. The only way we're going to get that morale up is by getting rid of everyone. Sid is furious and unhinged. He finds Mean Gene backstage and beats him up. He sets him up for a powerbomb, but security intervene and Sid beats them up instead. He's still got a groundswell of public support, but he's now a heel and he's a bit of a psycho. We get a 59 rating though. I'm glad we did the turn in the previous one because it probably would have dragged it down a little bit here. But that is what you get for Sid Vicious going psycho. And then in the main event, Kevin Nash and Hulk Hogan for the WCW title. Nash got disqualified though when Scott Hall ran in and attacked the champion. We're trying to do a storytelling match to keep the rating nice and high. It gets a 65 overall. Suffered a little bit from the lack of selling, and Hogan still being penalised for being going through personal issues. We look at the dirt sheet. What is dragging us down? Low morale, physical condition, holding back, poor selling, personal issues. Everything is just working against us. It gets to 65 though. Okay, so that's not bad. Not bad for the main event. And then after the bell, the Outsiders beat down the WCW champion, but an unlikely ally arrives through a cloak of darkness. Sting saves Hogan and sends the Outsiders running from the ring. Sting points his baseball bat at Hogan though, because he wants his WCW title shot, and this pair will feud. Well, I say feud. They're both faces, so I'm not sure what's going to happen. But Sting has got the title shot next, and we'll see how that handles compared to the rest of the NWO going on. A 64 rating. We've increased our popularity in 31 regions. Lost it in only 3, which is good. I think that might be our best Nitro. So made money on the show, losing money, loads of money overall. Popularity-wise, we're not tanking popularity anymore. Only a couple of regions where we're dropped. 64 is a good level-ish. Everywhere else going up. The US sort of flattening out. And that is the end of WCW Nitro on the 21st of February. Obviously, we'll be back next Monday with the next Nitro. Mae Young's going to retire. Just quickly looking at terms of our best shows. Ignore Thunder, because they don't count. That was our best Nitro performance. We're on a good run of Nitros, actually. A 63 and a 64. Super Brawl got a 65, which was nice. Best matches, still that cage match, actually, between Nash and Hennig. Getting a 69, as well as Vicious and Hall and Benoit and Shane Douglas from the pay-per-view. Title situation is pretty much unchanged. Sabu's Hardcore Champion, Billy Kidman Cruiserweight. US Champion is now Scott Steiner. Hogan's still World Champ, and the Tag Champs are now the Revolution. Right, thank you so much for enjoying this video, for watching this video at least. I'll be back next week, as mentioned. We've obviously also got the local to global save, which is going to happen on a Wednesday and a Saturday each week, so make sure you check that out as well. It's based in 1992, and there we go. In fact, Jeff Jarrett features in that one like he features in this one. He's everywhere. Thanks for watching. I've been Anders. I will see you next time.